Hello everyone, welcome to the Invest Yukon Pavillion. My name is Jesse Day, host of Commodity Culture, and today we have a very special panel for you with three CEOs. Atac Resources, Mr. Graham Downs will be up here, Snowline Gold, Scott Berdahl, and Victoria Gold, Mr. John McConnell. So if I could please get those CEOs to come up now, and we'll have a little chat.
Thanks, Jesse. My name is Scott Berdahl. I'm the CEO of Snowline Gold. I'm a Yukon-based prospector and geologist, born and raised in the territory, and Snowline ultimately comes out of more than 3 decades prospecting in the territory with my family, exploring big areas, getting off the beaten path, and trying to find new things. And then really we found enough that it was clear that we needed to take things to the next level. And we found investment, we found a vehicle, and launched Snowline, and really vectored in on a district-scale target in the eastern Yukon near McMillan Pass. And we've tested 3 targets now, and we've hit visible gold in Phase 1 drill programs on all 3 targets. So that's an incredible testament to the fertility of this district and a good proof of concept for the idea that we launched the company around. And one of those targets, called Valley, is proving to be a large and unusually high-grade reduced intrusion-related gold system. So we're really excited about that target and really excited to move things ahead out there.
Great. Thank you. My name is Graham Downs. I'm the president and CEO of Atac Resources. I started up in the Yukon back in the early 90s, worked with a mineral exploration company, engineering firm for over a decade. Eventually started working with Atac Resources. We were a project generator for many years until we found Canada's only Carlin-style mineralization on what's our flagship property called the VRIC Gold Belt, which is about 180 kilometers long, just northeast of Mayo. It's a polymetallic belt with the Carlin-style district on the east end, and then we've got copper and critical metals on the western end. Just some really interesting targets over in that area. We also have the Connaught project, which is a copper and high-grade silver project in western Yukon, and then a really nice new discovery called the Catch that's getting a lot of attention. So keep an eye out for that. And then we picked up a project down in BC in the heart of the Toodoggone, which is a very fertile district and exciting area as well. We've kind of transitioned over the last couple of years over towards copper and gold. So yeah, we're financed, lots of money, and looking forward to a great year.
Last but not least, John McConnell, Victoria Gold. I think everybody knows Victoria has a large open pit heap leach gold mine operating in the Yukon. We started it as a brownfield site in 2009, and now we're ramping up to 200,000 ounces of gold per year. As well, we have some pretty exciting exploration on the go, as you heard the previous speaker, Steve Wozniak, talk about our Raven project.
Well, thank you very much, gentlemen. And before we dive into each individual company, I'd like to get your macro overview of the gold space as it stands here today in 2023. There's a lot of catalysts and fundamentals that have people pointing to a gold bull run. A lot of people believe we're already in a gold bull run. As Jay Martin likes to say, there's always a gold bull run around the corner, but sometimes it just doesn't seem to fully materialize. So I'd like to get your thoughts on the main catalysts and drivers you see for the gold price here in 2023, and we'll start with you, Scott.
Sure. I mean, I think that, obviously having the run-up that we've had in the past few weeks has been really encouraging, but we would like to see sustained high prices to kind of build a bigger swell in the industry and in the gold space. And I think that ultimately the uncertainty around the world right now is obviously a big factor in the kind of short-term trades, but the global macroeconomic picture and with both high inflation rates and increasing interest rates, kind of push and pull with the gold price. But I think that one factor that could really bring things in gold's favor is just the kind of that lower burn, like if conflict and fear-based trading is sort of waves on an ocean, I think there's a tide that is it's slower moving, but it comes with the monetary policy and the decisions that are being made, and that could really provide a much stronger and more stable swell to kind of the baseline beneath the waves.
Great. Graham, if you could continue on there, and any catalyst you see for the gold price here in 2023.
I think Scott took most of mine, so I mean, I would just echo the one thing that's really resonates with me in the instability in the world and the currencies. And if what we're seeing out there is true, that countries are buying gold or trying to figure out stabilizing their own currencies, it seems like, if it's true what you hear out there, they're buying gold to back it up. You just see all these different stories about how countries are dealing with their currencies, and there's one thing that always works, and it's gold. And there's a lot of history in gold with a lot of these countries out there. So, I mean, I would just echo that.
John?
I think the real answer is, if any of us knew what the catalysts were and what the price of gold was going to do, we wouldn't be up on stage today. We'd be sitting on a beach somewhere.
Absolutely, and I do love that answer, actually. Makes total sense. So let's move on to what your companies are up to in the Yukon. Obviously, a very prolific mining district, excellent geology, a lot of really exciting, top-notch projects in that region. So why don't we go through, and if you could talk to us, maybe provide a highlight reel of what you've been up to in the Yukon, and maybe if you could also give your opinion on what is it that makes the Yukon such a great area for mining and exploration. You can go ahead there, Scott.
Okay. Well, as I mentioned in the intro, we've been active in the eastern Yukon in a place called the Selwyn Basin. The rocks are very similar in terms of their origin to the Great Basin in Nevada, and we're finding that the metallurgy and the potential of these rocks looks to be pretty similar as well. So that's exciting to be in a place where you have that potential and it just hasn't really been looked at before. And of course, getting into the systems that we've gotten into in very short order is itself very exciting. And so we're pretty happy with the Valley discovery that we've made, and we do think there's a lot of potential just right nearby with Valley as a nice proof of concept and something that sort of lowers the bar effectively in terms of what else you need to find out there to keep building on things. But going back to your question on just what makes the Yukon a good place to explore, I think it's the rocks. There are other factors. It's a stable jurisdiction. It has reasonably straightforward legislation and so on in terms of you can build mines here. I think John's done a fantastic job of doing just that over the past few years. But ultimately, it's we have fantastic geology. We're still just scratching the surface compared to many other jurisdictions in the world.
Great. Graham, what have you been up to in the Yukon, and what makes you bullish on the Yukon as a territory for mining and exploration?
Great, thanks. We had quite a busy year. We did three drill programs, which is quite a bit for us. We did drill out at Osiris, the Carlin-style district at the eastern end of VRIC. That went very well. We were able to extend some mineralization. We put out a resource where we have just over 700,000 ounces over 4 grams in indicated, and an additional million at over 3.5 grams, so very high grade. It's just a start. We need a little bit more, but it's an incredible system. And then on the western end there, we have some of the targets. We didn't go out there this year, but we're looking at the Ocelot, where we were preoccupied with other projects for many years, but there's a project out there, Ocelot. We drilled 41 meters of 11% zinc, 5 ounces silver, 3% lead, tons of tin and indium. So there's just all these little pockets out there on a big project like that we look to get back to. And then we drilled out at Connaught project, copper porphyry. We didn't get the results we wanted for the porphyry, but we got some amazing 4,000 gram silver numbers out of areas that had never been looked at. There's really nice high-grade silver veins there. And then, of course, we optioned the Catch property, which many of you might have heard of, or the excitement about that. It's the most copper I've ever seen walking around on a property in the Yukon before. I mean, it's just spectacular. Malachite for hundreds and hundreds of meters. Great grades. So, I really think that anybody that's listening, go take a look at our news releases on the Catch, and we're going to be drilling about 5 deep holes on that this year. So that's really exciting. And then we did some initial work down in Pill. and then getting back to the Yukon, I think it's just such an amazing ecosystem in the Yukon to do exploration. And then again, I'll echo Scott, and like it seems like every year there's a new discovery, be it John's exploration success that he's having around the mine, the Catch, for example, if we hit there, and Scott's amazing project as well. So it's just that there's always new stories seem to be coming out of the Yukon more than any other jurisdiction.
Great. And John, same question for you.
Yeah, I think three things come to mind. Number one is, you can permit and build a mine in the Yukon, and I think we're proof of that. Number two is the geology in the Yukon and the fact that much of the territory is still underexplored. We're all making new discoveries. If you walk outside there, pretty much every booth, the company has made a new discovery or expanded a discovery. And then number three is this. Is there any other jurisdiction where the government is helping the mining companies with this kind of a pavilion? I walked around quickly this morning, but I didn't see one. So, thank you to the Yukon government.
Yeah, getting government support, obviously very important when we're talking about mining and exploration. I want to move on now to what you guys have planned for the future. Any particular news flow or developments that investors can look forward to here in 2023 and moving forward? And we'll start again with you there, Scott.
Sure. Well, investors can look forward to the remainder of our 2022 drill results. We're still waiting on 6,000 meters from that program, and we're really excited to look at that with a few key holes in the mix in terms of what we've seen and how it relates to the rest of the mineralization that we've gotten into. And then also, prior to firing up the drills, we've just launched on a metallurgical program, so we'll get some preliminary indication of the metallurgy from the type of system that we're exploring in at Valley. It looks like it should be good. It is a similar style of system to what John's mining, and they have great metallurgy there, as well as at Fort Knox in Alaska with Kinross's project. And so those should be nice. Well, there's a lot of good upside just in terms of what we've already done, and as that story kind of circulates out. And then, of course, moving into 2023, the proper exploration season, we have 3 drills parked out on the site. We're looking to further build and de-risk the Valley target, as well as to step out and start to unlock some of the potential of the surrounding district with testing new targets and hopefully making new discoveries. We think we're in early innings out there.
Great. And Graham, what's next for Atac Resources?
So we're pretty pumped about getting back out to this Catch property. That's our main driver right now. We're also looking at ways to advance the Rackla Gold project as well. So there's a number of things that we can do there. That's really important, especially being neighbors with Snowline and Fireweed, kind of in that area of the Yukon. There could be some synergies down the road there. So we're looking into that. There's some land use planning going on at the western end of the Rackla Gold project that should be coming to a recommendation soon, so that'd be great. So we'll be there, and then so the big program at Catch, and then we'll be doing don't know exactly what the program looks like, but down at the Pill copper gold project as well. So should be another busy year.
Great. And John, what's next for you?
Well, I think it's more of the same. Producing gold's a lot of fun, and we're still ramping up, but we'll produce a lot of gold this year. As well, we'll continue with a big program at Raven. I think our budget is about $10 million this year. And, we've seen the success Sitka has had over in the Clear Creek area, and we have a large land position over there. So we're actually going to go back in there and spend 3 months drilling at Clear Creek this year as well.
Great. And I just have one kind of broader question to do with mining and exploration, and that is in regards to inflation and the increased cost of operating a mine in these days and times. I'm wondering, are you seeing that in terms of also supply chain issues and increased energy costs for energy inputs? Are you seeing those things, and how are you mitigating that or dealing with that in your own operations? And we'll start again with you there, Scott.
It's definitely something that we're seeing, both inflation and supply chain issues. it looks like the supply chain issues might have. They're still present, but they might have alleviated a little bit going into 2023. We seem to have a lot of pieces in place already for our upcoming season. Inflation does affect costs, but we've increased our efficiencies. We've built a 1,000-meter airstrip so we can bring in bigger planes and kind of reduce our number of flights and just increase the value that we get per meter. And the other thing out there is just the targets that we're exploring for. We've recognized from the start that there's a high bar to exploring in the Yukon, but again, the rocks justify that kind of an expense. And I think that with the system that we've tagged into and the continuity that you see in these big bulk tonnage targets, we'll be able to bring things towards a higher level of confidence and eventually towards a resource with a very small fraction of the total amount of meters that would be required in an orogenic system. So that's a nice benefit of the system that we're tagging into, and should help to keep overall costs down in the face of inflation.
Great. And Graham, what are you seeing with inflation out there, and how are you addressing it?
Yeah, we do. I mean, we don't have a mine like John. He probably sees a lot more than we do. But I mean, like fuel costs, they're going up. For example, where we have to have a helicopter, I know that we're having to use minimums now, and I know that supply chains are issues for them as well. I know that we have to pay more for our employees. So, we're definitely seeing it. But it's not, it's not a huge hindrance to what we're doing. It's just a reality. It's across the board. But you just really need to sharpen your pencil and really get a lot of good quotes and work with good people that are efficient. So we just focus on that. Focus on what we can do.
Great. And John, what are you seeing out there, and how is it affecting the mine costs, and how are you dealing with it?
Yeah, I'm hoping things are settling down a bit, but everything is related to fuel costs. Whether it's the direct fuel use, whether it's transporting your people, whether it's food. In our case, cyanide is all about transportation. I can give you an example. A year ago, a liter of fuel landed at Eagle was about $1 a liter. Fuel peaked out in June of last year at about $2 per liter, so double. Currently, it's sitting at about $1.55 per liter. So, it's something you need. There's not a lot you can do about it. You try and be as efficient as possible, but those are real costs that are applied to mine operations.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for that insight. What do you guys make of the central banks? Central banks are accumulating gold at levels that haven't been seen since the 1970s. So I'm just wondering what you make of that development, and how you think that's going to continue moving forward. We'll start with you there, Scott.
I think it ties into really what Graham was saying about that intrinsic value of gold, at least in terms of its perception and how it's had that perception for so long. And so there is a lot of uncertainty. There are a lot of macro experiments that are being played by or being conducted by central banks around the world, and I think that there's an increased recognition there that they need to hedge their bets, and gold is a great way to do so. And so, of course, that's bullish for gold. Also, John made a great point that if we knew for sure, we wouldn't be up here. But
Yeah, absolutely. That's how it works with forecasting, right? It's so difficult to forecast and predict. There's always black swans that come out of nowhere. So totally get what you're saying there. Now, let me put a question to Graham here. Do you think, and again, we're getting into forecasting again, but do you think we'll ever see gold return to back a currency or be used as money once again amongst society? What are your thoughts there?
Oh man, I'm really not the best person to answer that one. It's the old gold standard. I honestly don't know. I don't think I feel comfortable really speculating. I mean, I think the fact that the central banks are accumulating gold just says to me that they're worried, and to me that just means other countries, other central banks are going to keep accumulating it. I think, I don't know what John thinks about the price of gold now, but I mean, if we, from an industry point of view for producing gold, if we stick around these $1,900, $1,800, 2,000, I mean, that's a lot of money in Canadian. You're pushing $3,000. Hopefully, Victoria can keep making lots of money and keep investing into the Yukon. So that's me getting away from the question a bit, but really I think it's about central banks being worried and maybe they should tie it to it. Yeah.
Yeah, no, that answer still had a bunch of insight in it. So John, what are your thoughts? What do you think about central banks accumulating gold at the levels they are, and do you think we'll ever return to a gold standard?
Well, I think I should point out that Canada's central bank owns no gold.
Yes, I was going to mention that,
and we're one of the largest gold producers in the world. So, I think Trudy and the boys have got things wrong there. So, should they buy more gold? I think so. Should we return to, gold as a currency? I think that's very unlikely. I think there's a better chance of digital currency as opposed to gold as a backstop to currency.
Right. Yeah, there are some interesting. There's gold tokens on the blockchain. Same with silver. There's some companies doing that. So will certainly be interesting. Of course, central bank digital currencies. There's a lot of whole other can of worms we don't have time to get into today. Thank you very much for joining us, gentlemen. I just will note to everybody, if you would like to talk to these CEOs and get more information on their companies, you can find Snowline Gold at booth number 103, where you can talk to Scott. You can find Atac Resources at booth number 101, so you can chat with Graham there. And Victoria Gold is at booth number 109 if you'd like to chat with John. Thank you very much for joining us, and thank you very much, gentlemen.